Well, New York City Mayor Eric Adams sitting down with our very own Lara Trump, covering everything from leaving the Democratic Party to joining forces with President Trump. Watch.
You have a different view of the city when you put on a bulletproof vest for 22 years and you protected the children and families of the city. I see the byproduct of failed legislation and those who want to go into their own corners. And most importantly, it's about respecting the office. People lose sight of that. You know, you don't all of a sudden become anti-American because the person you wanted to be president is not president. It's the office. When you don't respect the office, you're sending the wrong message. I respect the office. There's a president called President Trump. I'm going to work with that president to produce for the people of our city because I respect the office. That's the office and that's the flag that Uncle Joe died in Vietnam for at 19 years old. So I'm not for those who are desecrating our flag, who are on our college campuses, radicalizing our children, who are being harmful to what this country stands for. I don't care what they say. This is the greatest country on the globe, and in God we trust.
That sounds like a guy running for office. Here with more on this interview that's premiering tonight, the host of My View, Lara Trump. Lara, it's so great to have you on. Your show is fantastic, by the way. It's like a must-watch every single weekend. The guests and you, of course. But tell me more about this interview. What did you take away from this?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited for tonight's episode. Not only do we have Mayor Eric Adams, we also have the Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, on, who was famously on stage with President Trump, of course, when the situation in Butler happened. So, look, Eric Adams went into this interview with me, and he said, nothing is off the table. I am an open book. You can literally ask me anything. And so we covered a lot of topics. I mean, you heard there from him how he's willing to work with President Trump. You know, we've seen him work with, of course, Sean Duffy. We've seen him work with Tom Homan. He wants to keep the people of New York City safe, he says. And he went so far as to make sure an ICE facility was on Rikers Island. That was supposed to be a benefit to the people of New York City to deport these, you know, illegal migrants who are criminals. He wants to get them out of New York. Well, guess what? The New York City City Council has sued him for that. He talks a lot about that, but he talks about why he changed his party. You might notice beside his name, there's an I, not a D. He is no longer running as a Democrat. He's running as an independent. I asked him about that decision, and his answer was much like we've heard from so many people, which is that he says, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me. It's a very wide-ranging interview, but look, he really wants to do, he says, the best for the people of New York City. He feels like the charges that were leveled against him, he goes into that a little bit and talks about how he believes they were political. But at the end of this, look, his whole goal is, as an independent, he has a bright future in mind for the people of New York City. And I was so excited that he sat down with us for this really fun interview.
You know, it's great that he's sort of joining the common sense party, but you do sort of have to wonder, you know, where was this common sense for the first couple of years of his administration when some really, really bad stuff was going down in his city?
Yeah, you do have to wonder about that. But he uses the word, Charlie, common sense. When I asked him about that, he said, look, it's common sense. People are worried about making sure that they can afford their homes, making sure they have a great life for their kids. They want the basics. And I think his idea is much like a lot of people, which is that the Democrats have stopped focusing on common sense and the basics. They have gone so far left and become so radical that so many people who once considered themselves, like himself, a lifelong Democrat, say, I can't be a part of this party anymore. And so it's sort of interesting to see him say that now. One of the things he also talks about, of course, is the migrant situation. The fact that he spent $7.5 billion as mayor of New York City to deal with the migrant situation. He does, by the way, give a lot of credit to President Trump for closing the border. Very interesting.
Most common sense thing he did was leave the party, I guess.
Well, guys,
yeah, maybe so.
Well, be sure to watch New York City Mayor Eric Adams with Lara Trump. That's on My View with Lara Trump tonight at 9 p.m. Lara, thank you so much for joining us. I will definitely be watching that interview.
I always do. Thanks, Lara.
Thank you, guys. Happy Easter.
You
Happy
too.
Easter.
You too.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.